Hello, I am continuing my tutorial series called Git and GitHub for Poets, and I'm very excited about this particular session because what I'm going to do in this session is sort of crucial to your life as a user of Git and GitHub. What I did before was show you all of these concepts, right? Here's my list of concepts. You have a Git repository. You can make commits, which are like changes. You can make branches. You can merge branches. You can fork. You can do a pull request. All these types of things that you can do with the Git software. You can do all those things just using the GitHub website through its interface. However, the truth of the matter is, if you're going to be working with this for open source projects or even other kind of creative ideas of how you might want to work with Git, you're ultimately going to want to work on your own laptop. So in the previous video, I talked through the basics of just using this terminal. So if you don't know how to use terminal, go back and watch the previous video. But if you do, you're in the right place and you're ready to actually download and install Git onto your local computer. Now, I'm not going to do this in the video. So if you're watching this in real time, pause, go to this URL, git-scm.com, download, install Git. Once you've done that, open up terminal and you'll be ready to continue with me. So to make sure everything's working, what you want to do, and I'm going to just, oh, whoops. I just want to get into the right place. So, I'm in the trash. Okay, I want to be on my desktop. Okay, so I am now on my desktop. That's where I want to be. Be somewhere in your documents folder, your desktop, where you can start adding files. Desktop's going to work for me. And the thing that I want to do is just type the words Git. So if you see this, you're in good shape. Now my font's kind of big, so this looks kind of like a mess. It'll hopefully look nice and neat on your particular laptop. I'm going to hit clear. If you see this, now I misspelled Git to make sure I got this error. If you say Git : command not found, then your Git is not installed properly. Try again, ask a question in the comments here. Hopefully I can help you figure out where you missed that or make another video for one of the common problems. But hopefully Git is working, and when you only type Git, what you get is a lot of explanation of, well, you need to issue also a command. So everything about using Git locally is all about saying Git something. Like you can imagine what this is: Git commit, make a change, save a change. So the first thing though, like if I just type this, the first thing that's going to happen is say not a Git repository. So this directory is not a Git repository. What is a Git repository? Remember this thing, this rainbow poem? This is a Git repository. So what you need to issue Git commands is a folder on your computer, which is a Git repository. This is essentially a folder on the GitHub server. You now want a folder on your computer. So I could just go and grab this exact repository and bring it down to my computer and then work with it there. And I'm going to do that in either this video or the next one. But I think it would be useful just to show you what happens again when you start fresh. So there are two ways of starting fresh. One way is actually just saying git init. And I'm going to show that to you at the end of this video or in the next one. But I think an easier way for you to work when you're getting started is make your repository on GitHub and then download it to your computer. And I keep saying the word download, but in a moment, soon I got to start saying push and pull, because ultimately pull it or clone it is actually a new term. So we're going to get some new concepts here, and this idea of cloning. So cloning is the act of taking a repository that's on a server like GitHub and cloning it to your computer, downloading a kind of copy of it to your computer that you can work with, and then you could push it back or you could pull from the server again if there are changes that are a server that are on your computer. We'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so here I am. So let's go back to GitHub, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to say create a new repository, and I'm going to call this one Rainbow Song. This one will be a song. And a song about rainbows. And one thing that I want to do that's kind of important here is I want to check this box here. Initialize this repository with a README. The reason why I want to do this is it's going to make it a lot easier to work with if the repository on GitHub has a file associated with it already. And I'll show you the difference when I show you git init a little bit later. Okay, so I'm going to select that, and I'm going to hit create repository. And now something really, so this is an empty repository. I did this before. It's my rainbow song. But right here, this is what's really, really important. There is a special URL here. This is the URL for the repo's files for its repository. This is the URL you need to clone it to your computer. Now there are different options. choose a clone URL. HTTPS recommended. So this is what you want to use if you don't want to get fancy. In other words, well, I'm going to do it this way, and it's going to ask me for passwords every once in a while if I'm trying to save changes and that sort of thing. There is a way to store your user and password name permanently to be able to, on your laptop, to be able to push and pull and work with GitHub. That requires this other SSH option, which I will show you in a separate video because it's kind of like this convoluted thing. So for now, I just want to use this HTTPS, and I want to hit copy, and I want to go here, back to terminal, and we're going to do our first local terminal git command. Here it comes, everybody. I need my drum roll sound effect. Git clone. By the way, pasting works in terminal. So I'm going to hit Command V, and you can see there it is. And you can see that's the URL, github.com/rainbow-song.git. Incidentally, this is exactly this same exact URL, just with .git at the end. Because .git is actually kind of like this, saying I want the URL of the repository itself, not the sort of web interface to the repository. And so once I hit that, and I wish my font, I wish it fit all in one line. Let's see if there we go, that's a little nicer. Once I hit enter, you can see it's cloning now. For a large, if this was a repository with a lot of files, this would take quite a while as it's downloading everything. But you can see it counted objects 3, total 3, reuse B, blah, 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 100% done, checking connectivity done. So it's giving you some debug information about what's going on. And now I can say open dot, and I'm on to the desktop, and we can see, look, there's a repository called Rainbow Song. Now, there's nothing in it but that README file, because that was the only thing that was in the repository on GitHub. So let's say I want to actually make some changes to it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this down here, and I want to open it with, I'm just going to open it with Sublime Text. I was using, so any text editor will do. You can use Atom. Actually, there's some nice things about using Atom with Git. I mean, I'll use that in a different video. And I can just go to this file. And you can see there's that README file. Now, this README file is written in a format called Markdown. And this Markdown is just a markup language to and the pound sign means a header, that sort of thing. So I just do a test against Song About Rainbows in the key of C major. So I'm going to make that change. I hit save, and now I'm going to show you another git command. So we're making a list of them. Clone is one. Here's another one that's very useful. Git status. Okay? So I'm coming back over here, and I'm going to show you git status. Git status. Not a Git repository. Why is it not a Git repository? I cloned it. The directory is there, but I'm not in that directory. So I need to cd into that directory. And I can make sure I'm in there by saying I'm in desktop Rainbow Song. And now I should be able to hit git status. Look at this. It's telling me lots of information. I'm on the branch master. Remember branches. I'm up to date with origin, but I've modified this file. So if I've modified this file, now, so this is what's different. When you were on GitHub and you edited a file and hit save, you actually you changed the file and committed it to the repository at the same time. Right now, this file is just floating. There is a change. I could get rid of the change. I could keep it, whatever. But what I want to do is actually say that change I made, I really want to commit it. So what I'm going to do is say is git commit. That's another command in this list now. Oh, well, commit's already up here. So that's not a new command, but we want to issue now this command, commit. And I want to issue that command locally. Now, commands need arguments. The first way I'm going to show you how to do this is with the argument -a. The argument -a essentially stands for all. Just like anything that was changed anywhere, commit all of it. Probably in a separate video, I'm going to show you about how you can only commit certain changes and not other changes. And there's a add command, which is like a step before commit. But this is a good way of getting started. Git commit -a. And I'm going to now, and then if I want to add a comment, I'm going to -m for a message, -m for message. And I'm going to say adding the key of C. And in quotes. So this is now git commit -a, commit any changes I made to any files, -m with this message, adding the key of C. So I'm going to hit enter. And you can see it, now. here's the thing. Oh boy. So this is something that's going to happen to you once and only once in your life, unless you change your name or email and that sort of thing. So it might happen to you again. What it's telling me is it's saying, I don't know who you are. Like, I need an author to be associated with this particular Git change. Now, if I were on GitHub in the browser and I made a change, it knows who I am because I'm logged in, right? I'm logged in as the user Rainbow Coder. So it doesn't have to ask me who I am. But on my computer, it doesn't know who I am. So what I need to do is tell my computer who I am, who I'm going to be when I make Git changes. Now, if you want to have multiple Git users, that can get very messy and complicated. There's probably a way of doing that. Maybe I'll make a video about that someday. But for now, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to actually just copy this command, gitconfig -- so to set my username, Rainbow Coder. That's my username. Then I'm going to copy this one and set my email. Now, this is very important. I don't know if it matters whether your username exactly matches GitHub. You probably should have it match. Your email needs to exactly match the email you signed up for GitHub with. And I actually signed up with daniel.schiffman+rainbow@gmail.com. So I'm going to enter that in. So that should be done. And by the way, I'm going to hit clear again. If I want to check to make sure that worked, another command is gitconfiglist, I think. Nope, gitconfig -- list. There we go. So you can see this is listing all of the configuration settings for Git on this local computer. And you can see my username and user email is now set. So I should, and if I type git status, whoops, I want to go back and hit git status. So it managed to make that commit. It did actually do that commit, but it just it used some anonymous username or the username that's on my laptop. So that's not good. So one thing, it doesn't really matter. You know what? I'm gonna let that be. There's a way. There's an amend command, which I could amend my previous commits to be now with my particular username that I am now. But what I'm going to do is just make another change. And I'm going to say in the key of C major, the song is a happy song. And I'm going to do git status. I made a change. I'm going to do git commit. I want to scroll back and find, oops, I want to find that command again, git commit. There it is. And adding a happy song. So now I'm going to show you another command that you can use. Log. So the command log allows you to see locally the history of your Git commits. To be honest, it's much more convenient to look at this stuff on GitHub because you have a nice visual interface for doing that. But every once in a while, you might want to see that. And what I'm actually going to do is type git log -2, which should show me only the last 2 commits, although there only have been 2 commits. So you can see, here it is. And now you can see the difference. You can see this author is coding Rainbow, daniel.schiffman+rainbow@gmail, whereas the author of the first commit is processing. It made some default user based on my computer's law. So what you want to do is set your username and email before you do that first commit. Okay. Oh, something very important that I didn't show you. You can get into this place, this very dangerous place by accident called Vim. Vim, I'm using Sublime as a text editor. Atom is another nice text editor that you can use. TextEdit is a text editor. Vim is a terminal-based, command line-based text editor. And when you type in things like git log, you're actually in this place that you can never get out of. I am in Vim because somehow I'm in this weird text editor thing where it wants me to do stuff that I don't want to do. So I can always type Shift:, and then type Q to get out of it. So Often when Git, if you end up in that text editor, you want to type colon and Q and it will get you out of it. Now, you're a kind of person who wants to use Vim, and Vim is, I'm sure, is a wonderful place for many people, but it is also a place of heartache and despair and danger. So colon Q, that's the new song for today if you get stuck in Vim land. Now, I'm going to type git status, and here we are. Now, I'm reaching the end of this particular tutorial video because I've been going on and on and on and on and on. What is it that it's missing? Now, here, my README file, here in this particular repository, has changes that are not reflected on GitHub itself. And you can see that right here, that we're seeing the old README file here on GitHub. So now I want to talk to you about the concepts of push and pull. I mentioned these concepts when I talked about pull request. So I'm adding to here push and pull. So let's review this. This is GitHub. This is you working locally in your terminal. Pushing is the act of sending to GitHub. Pulling is the act of receiving from GitHub. So what I've done is I've worked on my repository here locally, and the changes that I've made here no longer exist, are not reflected on GitHub, so I want to push to GitHub. When would you want to pull from GitHub? Well, maybe somebody else is also working on your repository, and they pushed some changes to GitHub, and you don't have those changes on your laptop. Then you would want to pull. So GitHub being the sort of central place for multiple people to contribute to, and you can always push your changes there and pull other people's changes back down to yours. So let's just look at push. Back over here now, here I am again. I'm going to say git push. Huh? It doesn't know what to do. Now I've discovered there's another really key aspect of this. There is another command to add to our list called remote. This is me working on my laptop on my Git repository. GitHub is now an example of a remote. A remote is a duplicate instance of your repository that lives somewhere else on a remote server. You can have multiple remotes for a particular project. In most of the cases in my tutorial videos, I'm just going to have one remote, GitHub, as that particular remote. So what I need to do is say, when I say git push, I need to say git push where. So you might think that what I would say is git push GitHub. Because what I want to do is git push to my remote GitHub. Now, it doesn't know what that is. So it gave me a bunch of error messages. So I'm going to type something, git remote. This lists me all the remotes associated with my project, one of which is called origin. I can actually also say git remote -v, the V meaning verbose. And it's showing me more. Origin is actually this particular URL. So now, I want to say git push origin. So origin is the name of the remote. It's just whatever default name that GitHub and Git used when you clone your repo originally. It just calls it origin. It's where it came from. It's the origin of this particular repo. So git push origin should be enough, right? Nope. Gave me some more. Actually, it didn't give me those errors. It gave me a lot of error a lot of junk. I think it tried to do it with some default, but I'm missing one piece. I need to say the remote, which is origin, and then I need one more argument, which is the branch. See how much more work this is to work locally through terminal? All I did to do was hit a commit button on GitHub and I was done. But I want to push origin branch master. So I'm just working in the master branch right now. We're going to do fancier stuff with branching and all that sort of thing later. Git push origin master. Git push origin master. Denied to Schiffman. I'm not Schiffman. I'm Rainbow Coder. Time out, pause this video tutorial. I'm back and ready to push to GitHub. The reason why I had a problem is I've logged into my computer previously as a different username and it still thought I was that. So I fixed it now and I'm ready to say git push origin master. Here we go. Git push origin master. Now, this is what you should see. Of course, it's not going to just let me do this because it doesn't know who I am. You need to, whether I have access rights to that particular repository on GitHub. Now, in fact, I do, and I should be able to enter in my GitHub username right here. And then I should be able to enter in my GitHub password, which hopefully I remember right here, and hit enter, and it happened. There we go. Now you can see it gave me information about the stuff being sent to GitHub, and I can go here, and I can hit refresh. And you can now see the new text is here. And if I go under commits, you can see here. Now, the good news is, remember, this particular commit has an incorrect username. I didn't go back and fix it because I don't really care, big deal. But you can see that this particular commit is assigned to the correct user because my Git settings on my laptop are the same username as my username on GitHub, username and email. Okay, so this video turned out to be a little bit less than maybe what I originally intended, but let me just recap for a second and talk about what I'm going to do in the next one. So all we did in this video was create a totally new repository on GitHub, cloned it to our laptop, made some changes to it, and pushed it back. And while doing that, we realized we have to install Git on the laptop, we have to know about Unix commands, and I have to also make sure that my global username and email settings are configured. Once you've done that, you're kind of good to go for a much longer period of time. And because you don't have to do all that again. I don't know what I was just saying. I spent like a half an hour trying to get my username correct if you're watching this. That's why I've kind of lost my train of thought here. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to make a fresh repository from an existing folder on your computer and send that to GitHub. Because in a lot of cases, you might actually have already made something on your computer that you want to suddenly turn into a repository on GitHub. So I'll show you that using the git init command in the next particular video. And from there, I'm going to keep going with more and more types of things that you might want to do with working with other people's repositories and branching and merging and all sorts of other possible things that you might need to do at some point. Okay? See you in the next video, maybe if you choose to continue to watch.